this is the most disgusting part about it. Deshaun Watson picked the most vulnerable people available to him.
NANI?!
Dynamite. All right, love always pays. But you want to know what also might pay? Getting a bunch of women to say that you sexually assaulted them, and you get paid you become the richest NFL player in history for it after a 1 year sit out. Deshaun Watson has been found will not be charged with criminal proceedings. So in the case of Deshaun Watson, for all you that don't know, 22 allegations came out that he had inappropriate behaviors or activities while getting service from physical therapists, massage parlors, or masseuses. This was a very interesting dynamic because this brought about a lot of controversy in the sense that, for two reasons, and it sort of takes on that Jussie Smollett effect, right? That Jussie Smollett effect where someone, a bunch of women came out and accused Deshaun Watson of inappropriate behavior, and it wasn't just like one or two who were in the same apartment. These were women all across the country. And there's a lot of things and a lot of insight that I immediately have as a person who played in the league that became innately clear to me. One, it is extremely rare, and that's the gist of it. He was accused of forcing himself on the women, making women perform sexual acts on him or egregious acts on him by 22 women. And this was litigated for the past year. He was already sitting out last year for a contract extension, which he wasn't getting. Basically, the NFL swept this under the rug. They did their own personal investigation, and we have a timeline of everything that happened. So the original accusations and everything started coming out back in 2021 March. So basically, a year to date is what it takes. New cases were filed against Watson. Suit alleges Watson is deleting Instagram messages, which was a form of. So these are things that, we know he has done. Like this isn't about hearsay anymore. Whether you believe he had sexual interactions with all 22, he is not innocent in this picture. He wasn't found criminally guilty, but he could be held in civil court, and there's a lot more room to do it. But the thing about it is the burden of proof is on the victims to prove it, and a lot of these women don't have the financial backings to do that, or they don't have the legal expertise, not the women themselves, but the legal scope of this is so hard to prove. It's hard to prove that sexual assault happened when it's his word versus her word, because these usually happen in private sessions. This is usually between a client and the employer, or the client and the facility that was housing the employer. And these are places where video cameras or recording devices are allowed. But I guarantee you, from this day forth, anybody who works with him, especially a woman, there's going to be a third party in the room, or they're going to record it, because there's one thing we can say about sexual offenders who are on the higher spectrum. If they are not caught and corrected, they will re-offend. It is mindless for us to think that he is not going to do something like this again. And more accusations might come out, but for the meantime and in between time, let's break this down and sort of take a closer look at what this means and what this says about us. Deshaun Watson decided to was picked up and traded to the Browns, and this says a lot about the NFL, right? We're still in National Women's Month, right? March. A man who, just because he's not having criminal charges pressed against him, he can still have civil charges pressed against him, who was accused by 22 women. And I remember I said I was going to tell you some nuance about this. One, when you have a situation where you're the most high-profile person on the team, the quarterback, you get everything you want from a stance of body recovery, implementations, and things like that. You have the state-of-the-art of everything. And it's paid for by your company. The NFL pays for the best physical therapists, the best everything. Why would he need to leave the facility to get health care? Is mindless. And the only other time you hear about athletes doing this, You find out 2 years later they were doping or they were on steroids. Everything you need to be the best version of yourself legally can be found within the four walls of that NFL stadium in Houston. So him leaving the facility to get extracurricular activity treatment is a red flag. Second, the fact that he had over 100 massage therapists on the books is a red flag. Because in my life, I'm 33 years old. I ain't had that many. I ain't had 4. Mary and Jasmine used to have me right. I still got their business card. I ain't even in New York no more. Another thing that was super interesting about this was a lot of the people who declined to sue were some of the first people to flat out say, we don't want your clientele here anymore. Do you know what that is? Because those sessions, those are expensive sessions. I know for my session, 4 hours, 4 hours for about $5,000. This is good money. And if you have him in your back pocket as a masseuse or a massage therapist, you have access to the team. He could make recommendations for you that could put you on a celebrity status. The thing that you need to understand is Deshaun Watson is definitely benefiting from his privilege. And it's disgusting because he, as a black man who has seen other black people suffer in Houston, should know better. Because there are people who get accused of sexual assault daily, and they've done nothing wrong. And there's a reason why he stayed quiet and didn't look to get his voice out there politically, because he knows he's guilty. I haven't heard from him yet, and more power to his lawyers. That's what he should be doing. Shutting the fuck up. The fact is, his next court case is still coming up here. He has another one that should be coming up in April. But the Browns basically did the bare minimum to look into these cases. They asked the accused if he did it. He said no, and they signed him to a multi-million-dollar deal that makes him the most paid athlete in the NFL's history. That is a title that the NFL has to live with. In the same month that they are having National Women's Month, the NFL signed a sexual assault accused to the highest bill in contract history. And they did it with a smile on their face. Keep in mind, Colin Kaepernick was blackballed from the league just for standing up for what was right. So it's clear now. The NFL, if there's ever a discussion about Colin Kaepernick, NFL cares more about people taking a knee than they do about someone getting sexually assaulted. Period. The NFL should bar him. There's no way that someone who has 22 accusations on his record and none of them have been cleared independently or by the criminal justice system should be allowed to play football. 22? And this is the demagoguery, right? Because he thinks he's above the law. He doesn't think he'll be touched. He plans to plead the fifth in all of the civil court proceedings. All 17 of the ones that are being brought up, he plans to plead the fifth. Sexual misconduct is not grounds to be celebrated. The NFL is notorious for doing this. The violence that is perpetuated against women by the NFL is something that needs to be spoken on. The NFL shouldn't have the ability to go out and say breast cancer awareness and support women, but in the same leaps and bounds say, but if you're having one too many drinks next to our players and something happens to you, that's on you. The NFL's shouldn't have the ability to tell someone no for their social beliefs that hurt nobody, but give someone else the green flag that involved physical, mental, traumatic type activities. It just doesn't make sense. Deshaun Watson hasn't even won a playoff game, has he? And this man is getting contracts that a Super Bowl contender could easily handle. I don't know how to really feel about this other than this, but it's just wrong. And I do believe in the whole mantra, innocent until proven guilty. And since there wasn't enough information there to bring up something, but you just know. You just know. If you just think about it past 2 seconds, 2 people in a room, one of them in a compromising position, he asks for sexual favors, that person says no, reports it, that person says, oh, I didn't do anything like that. It's their word versus your word. One of them has millions of dollars, the other one is working paycheck to paycheck and probably can't put gas in her car, couldn't afford the lawyers, couldn't afford enough. And this is the most disgusting part about it. Deshaun Watson picked the most vulnerable people available to him. The fact is he could have any woman he wants. He's a quarterback in a black community in Houston. He could have all the girls he ever desired. But that's not enough for him. He doesn't want women that wants him. He wants women that he can take advantage of. He's a predator. And he will strike again. Mark my words. What you do in the dark will come to light. It always does. But that's just my thoughts on that. Let me know if you think Deshaun Watson is a scumbag, because he is. If you don't agree, hey, you know how I feel about that. You can probably do that one too after you do this one.
Apology accepted.
But for the meantime, between time, hey, you guys like, share, and subscribe. Next topic.